Good afternoon, Amber Zimmerman. I'm glad you're joining me here today, and I thank Icicle Arts for having us both together to do this interview in your fabulous studio in the woods on a snowy day. It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Jane Zanol, and I'm very happy to be talking to you this afternoon. I did some research on you before I started coming up here and talking to you, and in an artist statement on your website, you mention that you consider yourself to be living an authentic life in your handmade house and studio in a forest. Why is that important to you, and how does it influence your art?
I think authenticity helps us create meaning in our lives, and I have always had a connection to finding meaning and living my life very purposefully, and it's important to my husband too. And so living an authentic life is not always easy, but it's putting in the work and knowing the story of everything you do, like where all your wood comes from, where, all of the plants I planted in my yard have come from old homestead gardens or friends' gardens. And so it's nice to weave together a life where you know the story of everything, and then it becomes part of your story. So
I think that's wonderful. And do you think somebody looking at a piece of your art can see that comes through?
I think that when you look at my art, it shows some kind of symbolism, and possibly that the artist, me, interpreted something and is trying to visually show that. Mm-hmm. So I think in a deeper level, trying to find the meaning behind anything in life definitely comes through my art.
Mm-hmm. It's terrific to be sitting here surrounded by this. I'm really enjoying it. You also mentioned on the website that you're a fourth generation woman artist, which is pretty impressive. But what about that legacy? How would you say that that's formed you as an artist?
Well, I think it's given me maybe freedom and permission to just be creative from the get-go. Like, I was literally brought to an art studio as a baby and kind of raised in my parents' art studio with my sister. And my great-grandmother had an awesome art room. My grandmother not only did art, but she did art with us and also took us places that inspired her, to show her the relationship of what was inspiring to her. And so that connection. And, I didn't realize the value of having art in my lineage until I was older, and somebody wanted me to do the elevator speech art, artist statement. And I was like, what am I going to say? And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, wow, it's kind of cool that I have such a long line of artists in my mother's side of the family, and my dad's an artist too. I don't want to forget about him. But it's just always been a way of life, and so it's always had permission to create and to be imaginative. So.
But I know you did your own thing too. I mean, you have your own interests, and you're a unique person. So was it ever a matter of wanting to rebel against that tradition?
I think my rebellion comes from not being specialized. I think that we value specialization in our culture, especially nowadays, and I kind of value diversification. You don't have to be really good at one thing. You can be awesome at lots of things, or you can be so at a myriad of things. And it's important to keep trying and learning new skills. And so along the way, I've tried lots of different art forms, and it's helped me put more irons in the fire, so I'm not just doing one kind of art. So hopefully I can make a living at it a little bit more. That's always the hope, artist. So that, I guess that's my rebellion.
Yeah.
In a way.
Well, you do seem like a woman who's following her own path, you know, and you do seem in charge of your destiny and not like necessarily it comes from anyone else. You know, you also talk about in your statement about your artistic connection to the cycles of nature and what you think is a sacred connection to those cycles. Would you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I kind of live my life more in the like circular calendar rather than the like Gregorian calendar. Mm-hmm. And so I really try to pay attention to the little nuances of where we live. And I think that the connection to nature, to all that is sacred and divine to me in my life. I don't have a religion. I have nature is kind of my religion. And so knowing a sense of place where I live, my connection to it, where I belong in that, how what I do affects that, and vice versa. Like knowing what plants bloom first in the spring and what comes next and next and next, and what pollinators that brings, what animals that brings. If I was like transported into a different season and shown like a plant, could I tell what time of year it was? You know, like that's of interest to me, and like the connective knowing. And so that reinforces kind of my relationship to the visions that I get to create art with. I'm always thinking about like what's my connection to something. So
yeah. You know, another thing I liked reading about was your profound commitment to your community. I mean, you are living out here, yes, what I consider to be in the woods, in a fairly remote place. You with your family, and yet you've done an awful lot of work with the larger community around here. You know, technically you're in Leavenworth, but in my mind you're miles and miles away from town, and yet you still work with, well, I saw that you participated in Empty Bowls since 2012. I mean, that's a long time to be making those beautiful artist bowls that I know take a long time for the auction. I did see the gorgeous Raven Bowl that you created for this year's artist auction to benefit the Upper Valley Mint. What inspired you about creating that beautiful glass raven?
The bowl? So yes, I have been doing empty bowls for lots of years, and it's an awesome way to give back to the community. So the Raven Bowl that I did this year was a raven kind of soaring over Wedge Mountain, and it's hand painted, fused glass, and then slumped. So it's a glass bowl instead of a traditionally glazed bowl. And the imagery was kind of like, you know, Wedge Mountain is the iconic kind of symbol in the backdrop of Leavenworth. And she's beautiful through all the seasons. And the raven's kind of a spirit animal that I've been working with for a while. I can't seem to get away from her at the moment. So it's kind of rising above the mountain and showing how the community is all one, celebrating the community and nature and our relationship to it, the outdoor community. So that was kind of my intention for the bowl.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I look forward to bidding on your bowl, and we'll see if I get it. I don't ever seem to be very successful. I'm not keeping an eye long enough. Sometimes someone swoops in at the last minute and gets the bowl that I think will be mine. So another thing that you do is you've worked teaching art in the LEEAP program in the schools since 2009. Would you talk a little bit about why you think working with children is important?
So I've been working with the community on different boards and art groups pretty much since high school and college, and since I've graduated from college. And that program was really interesting because Cordy Bradburn and other amazing local artists put that program together because arts education was taken out of the schools in elementary. And so it was like a touchstone of having an artist or someone that could teach a lesson be matched up with a teacher and offer a monthly art class. And so that's in my wheelhouse. It's something I can do to give back. I'm not wealthy, but I can give art, right? I can give in whatever capacity I can. So I started doing that before I had kids. And then I kept doing it. And now I have 2 kids, and it's even more important to me because this community really values like performance arts and the musical arts, but visual arts has been the sticky point of like for years been trying to get more recognition for all the amazing visual artists that have lived here. And we've had lots of ups and downs in that journey, but going full circle and working with the children, if you can develop their love of art and instill how important it is, maybe the parents will get excited about it, maybe they'll grow up and see the value and they'll value all of the different arts there are more. So it's selfishly a way to like make sure everybody knows that art is awesome and that you don't have to be fearful of trying something creative. And it's just so wonderful to be with the kids, teaching them. And I've been doing it so long. Cordy kind of retired, and now I'm the co-director of that program.
So you you mentioned enjoying it and feeling, it sounds like it's almost something that you're doing for yourself, but I know actually all this community work in a way, it takes away time from your own work as an artist in a way. And I understand that you say you're getting benefit from it, but what about that balance that an artist needs to have time and space to create? How do you balance that with community work?
That's a really good question. And I think that constantly reevaluating and rebalancing is important, because just when I think, I have this down, like I don't. And so, this year's thrown a wrench in things, but I guess learning where you can serve at the best place and committing to something that's doable rather than committing to everything is a lesson I've learned through the years, for sure. Because I not only do the gallery work and the teaching in the schools, but I do a wholesale line of art that I sell in the stores. And we'll talk about this too probably, but I have another business where I teach adults how to paint. So there's a lot of irons in the fire, and it's constantly like how much time to give to each part of it, and to still feel creative and motivated to have time. And I'm a mom, so that's another part of it. It's another iron in the fire that is just a real part of life. So.
Well, I've got to say I admire the balance you achieve. Now you do mention I'm going to talk about several things you brought up, but you do mention this year in particular, kind of throwing a wrench in things. Would you talk about how the pandemic has affected your life as an artist and as a community volunteer?
Yes. So I was teaching a grant-based art program in the elementary schools kind of when everything went down, so it was kind of a bummer not to finish that. Finish the projects with the kids in the school and have that income, of course. And then all of a sudden I'm a full-time parent. Like, there's no childcare, and I live pretty far out rurally, so I can't just leave my kids at home to go do things. So I'm a homeschool parent now, which takes a lot of time, and a lot of the gallery shows got canceled. I still volunteer as far as I can do the Empty Bowls Bowl, because I can paint that here and give it to them and people can bid. And then instead of teaching in the schools, I started working with Metal Arts, and I make little art videos And they try to serve many districts, getting little art instructional videos out to K through 6th grades during this time, so that all the kids have some form of art that they can do. So I've tried to adapt as much as I can. I've tried to teach on Zoom, which is really hard because people are zoomed out in lots of ways. And so, it's been a struggle. And I definitely I'm still making things and creatively trying to reinvent ways to do things. But in the end, it's like more work for less return.
Mm-hmm.
And you just keep doing it because you have to, and you know that something will change eventually. And I know I'm not the only one. I know there's a million of us artists out there doing the same thing. So,
Well, I hope it'll be encouraging for other people to hear about your story and the ways that you've adapted as a way to persevere through this time, and I hope we'll come out on the other end, and you'll still have your creative life and still be reaching people with your art. I do hope that.
Yeah.
You've had your own business, Amber Zimmerman Fine Art, since 2006. Would you talk to me a little about being a small business owner?
Yeah. So my parents are business owners. I grew up in art business. So it just seems like a normal thing to do. So yes, I used to do more like art booths, art in the park kind of things, farmers markets. And then I had kids, and it's harder to commit to sitting in a booth all weekend or, a lot of time when my husband's an avid mountain person, an avalanche forecaster, so he's on call a lot certain months of the year. So trying to find ways to commit to different ways to sell art has totally evolved through the years, which is why I find myself selling more wholesale now, because I just don't have as much time to sit there physically in a booth selling art. Not to say that I won't in the future. It's just kind of you do what you can with the life that you have at the moment and the time that you have, and trying to market yourself. I'm far better at promoting other people's art than I am promoting my art. That is definitely something I've been trying to work on. So, but yes, just trying to keep managing the finances, being the bookkeeper, doing all of that is... The business side of art takes a lot more energy than the creative side of art for me.
That's interesting to me. So you established Sip and Paint as a business person in Leavenworth in 2016. What do you like about teaching those art classes? And those are to adults, obviously, if they're sipping while they're
adults.
While they're painting.
Yes. And I have done private kids parties and things too. But so I worked for a nonprofit for I don't even know how long, but it was called Artists, which was Icicle Arts for a long time.
Oh, yes.
And so when that nonprofit went away, we had been teaching adult painting classes, and my friend and I were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So we kind of gave the kids after school programs to a different nonprofit, and we started teaching adult classes just to keep creativity going in the community and to have income. And my partner ended up pursuing her photography full time, so I just became the Sip and Paint teacher. And it's fun. It's great to provide a safe, step-by-step, fun environment for people to try art again and to get confidence in it and to have fun with their friends. And it's a whole different kind of art than I do for my gallery art, but it's also rewarding and it's also learning, and I kind of feel like it's art therapy for people, and that's super important. So
I've heard from friends they've had great experiences at your classes, at those classes, and they really look forward to taking them again. Yeah. I know that's been part of Leavenworth Spring Bird Fest, and that's mainly where I've talked to my birdie friends about it, and they really love those classes.
yeah.
So I'd like to talk a little bit about you're working in a variety of media. You can see on the walls around us. So, for instance, these pieces of wood, several of these things are on wood. I mean, do you know this wood? Is this wood from your land?
Some of it is, like, some of it's wood slabs that were left over from milling. Some of them are capped with wood that I found on hikes or Lake Wenatchee. I kind of always have the backpack and I stick little treasures in it that I don't think is going to be, no one's going to miss it if I take it. And I really like texture and adorning things because it seems to elevate pieces for me and make them more sacred. And I started putting wood on top of paintings a few years back, and it just feels like some paintings need that grounding effect that like kind of holds them in, and then some might need more life breathed into them, and so I like hang different things I make or things I find off of them. Like this piece is about tending seeds, and so I had these cool seed pods I wanted to incorporate into them. So usually the vision comes to me with the medium that I'm supposed to create it in, whether it's glass or wood or painting. And then I create it and kind of bop around the studio and all my little drawers of things and think like, does this want to live on this? Does that want to live on that? What does this piece need? And it usually will tell me. It's like an intuitive process. And for me, it just elevates the meaning and the intention behind why I created it. And then it's interesting to hear what the viewer gets out of it. So
you're saying that when you're doing a piece like this raven up here, and that's glass, right? And so you start out with a more of a whole vision, not just the raven and the glass, but you visualize the whole piece as it.
Yeah, generally I do like the shape and like the size and kind of the general look. I'll usually just do like a little sketch. Something will just come to me and I'll sketch it. And then I sit with it for a minute and I think, what does this look like? And then it will really show me what it looks like. And then I just start creating it. And if something's not working, I just leave it for a day and I come back. But I usually stick with a piece and finish it pretty quickly. Like I need to make it and I need to manifest it. And then I need it to go live its life. Like I'm not somebody that likes to keep a hold of their art, even though there's a lot of art in here. I do create a lot of pieces for different shows, and so more art has found homes than is hanging on my walls.
Well, this is really exciting to see. This, what to me feels like very innovative. I guess I can call it framing. I mean, it's not necessarily a wood frame that I'm used to around artwork. Seeing these pieces in person, they are very much enhanced by the glass feathers with the raven, for instance. They're really very beautiful, and I do feel that sense of an invocation of nature with these found objects, as well as these art pieces that you've created as part of it. I would say that for me, this is working. This combination of your artist's skill with these natural elements, but then also I do get a sense of your intuition, and and expertise in making these pieces. I mean, I guess I'd say making. I mean, in some ways it's assembling. It's like a collaboration in the piece. So all those, I know you studied, have studied different media and things like that at different times, and it becomes apparent to me sitting here that you continue to use those. It's not like Picasso, you have your blue phase and you're only making everything blue or something like that. I mean, the combination of the glass and the painting and I almost feel like these are sculpture in many ways.
Well, I went to Evergreen State College and I graduated in 2000, and I studied art and environmental science at the same time. And then I kind of ended up getting a degree in environmental art and an emphasis in sculpture. So I do have the tendency to want to break away from just the flat plane and add other elements. So that's still part of my art for sure. And I did take, at the same time I went to Pratt and did glass blowing, and I did glass blowing for many years. And then I got into glass fusing. My parents are glass artists. So it's not scary to use different materials to me. And I feel like sometimes when you get a creative vision and it requires a different medium, some artists default to what they know. I kind of look at it as like, oh, that's a challenge. How am I going to make that? Oh, cool. I'm going to go find those materials, So I feel like the vision of what I need to make dictates what medium I use. So it's nice to have skills to do many mediums, and it keeps it interesting. And for instance, like these two paintings up here these are portraits of Hagen and Megan, the Odin's ravens. I've kind of been working with mythology a little bit in my art, because mythology is usually dictated by nature as well, right? It's evolved from that. So it's interesting to see the archetypes through
Yes, it is.
through the years and where they are now in society and our relationship to them. But like those are just glass paintings, and then I sandblasted some details in them. I could have just painted them on wood or whatever, but I like the luminosity of it. I like the it seems to just like kind of elevate it for these simple little portraits of something. It just needed the extra something. So painting them on glass and fusing them was like the right way for me to do that for that piece. So sometimes I paint with oil paint, sometimes I paint with acrylics. I went through a whole phase where I just made my own paint and used earthen arts.
Wow.
So I did that for a while. So it really just depends on like the themes that are coming up that are working with. And sometimes I look at the gallery calendar and I decide what shows I want to submit to and look at the different themes, and certain themes will pop up and I'm like, okay, I want to submit to that show, and that show. What am I already working with that fits that? Or what do I have that fits that? I don't take back stock usually. I usually make new things because I kind of, it's like that assignment excitement. I actually really loved being a student. So it's kind of, it helps me, push me to have deadlines and to have different themes to work with, where it's still authentic to my art, but it pushes it into something different. So yeah.
Amber, do you think where you work as an artist is important? Do you consider yourself to be a Northwest artist?
That's a great question, and I never really thought about it until you just asked it. So I guess I would say I'm definitely a mountain artist. Like the imagery I work with is endemic to like where I live. But I think when I've traveled, I've always taken a sketchbook and drawn. So I think where I live definitely dictates the imagery that I work with. So I would call myself a Washington Northwest, more mountain-based artist for sure at this point in my life.
But I like it. It's but you take it with you. You take your artistry with you, and that informs everything you see wherever you go. I mean, and I like that. I like that too. I'd like to know, I know that you do, you create artwork for shows, but then also I know that you do commissions and that you like commissions. And would you talk about how those two processes are different for you and what you like about someone asking you for something specific? Would you talk about that process a little?
Yeah, usually commissions are audience based, right? Like that certain person wants something specific. So my attention kind of gets zeroed into a different way where I'm not like having like the stream of visual input to create the gallery work. It's more like, okay, what does this person want? How can I fulfill that? What does that mean to me? What can I do to fulfill that in a way that is what they want and that's with intention? I grew up with parents who only do commission work.
Oh.
And so I've lived my whole life drawing and working for them and helping them work to make art for other people and what they want for the 90% of the time is what the customer wants. So that's another part of my rebellion is I kind of just wanted to make what I wanted to make. But I really do love the challenge of making something specific for somebody. And usually I get those requests for glass work. Like I've done a few paintings and murals and things like that for people, but I've gotten a lot of specialty, like stained glass windows or hand painted and things.
I've seen some of that work.
Yes.
So you don't, when you're doing commission work, like fear doesn't enter into it about somebody liking or not liking your work or something like that? That's not part of it?
It's not fear. There's definitely more like what will they like, and I tend to do lots more sketches and like really invite them with me through the process because I don't want to just make something and then have it not be what they want. So like the invitation to collaborate and to like divulge my process more is always more readily available at commissions, and that helps, I think, with the fear.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. Well, finally, I want to ask if you have a philosophy of art and what you think the role of art is in our society and in the world.
I think art is just a universal language across every boundary. And I think art is just life. That's how I live my life, and it's a way to connect and for everybody to come out of their little sacred containers and come into one and like not be divided. And it's a place of incredible problem solving and empathy. And so I do really think it's just the universal language, whether it's music, visual arts, performance arts, and we need it. It's like breathing air or eating food. We need it as humans.
Amber, thank you so much. Thanks for talking with me today. This has been fascinating.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Icicle Creek Center for the Arts. I'm Jane Zanol, and I thank Amber Zimmerman very much for this time she spent with me today.
Thank you.